Carmilla, but not the story by Sheridan Le Fanu. I have read that as well, like years ago. Honestly, I remember it being really boring because it's super old and I can't read old shit. Old shit's just boring. I'm so sorry. This is a novelization of the web series Carmilla, which is based off of the Sheridan Le Fanu story, which is about a lesbian vampire. But the web series is a modern AU retelling that just completely overhauls it and puts these characters in a completely different situation and fleshes them out completely differently, and very much becomes its own creation that's only loosely based on the source material. So the source material is about, it's like, I don't even know, like the 1800s. There's a cat. Okay, it's the 1800s, some vampire chick and her vampire mistress mommy are abducting girls. The web series retains that plot but adds a bunch of other stuff and is in a completely different setting. The web series is about a college freshman whose roommate disappears and she gets a new roommate who is a broody vampire, and then they fall in love and solve mysteries at their university that is very mystical and magical and spooky. There's another cat off frame, so why are you here? So this web series, iconic. Came out in 2015. You're distracting. You're really distracting. The web series came out in 2015. Iconic. What a time to be alive. I think I started watching it at like episode 6 or so. That's when it got like big on Tumblr. I like had a fan blog for this. I had a Tumblr, a Carmilla Tumblr. Throwback. What a throwback. This is certainly a time. It's been 10 years. Oh my god, this year's the 10-year anniversary of Carmilla. That's crazy, actually. I didn't even realize that. I just sort of read this on a whim. But the web series, iconic, especially in format. This is one of the big web series. This was a time when everyone was just starting to do web series, and it's because of web series like this that genre even sort of got somewhat popular at all. It never really took off, and like, for me, this is like the peak of web series content, even though it's one of the early ones. And the medium of the web series format is so crucial to the story. So the main character, Laura Hollis, she's a journalism major and she is like filming all of this on her webcam on her computer as like a school journalism project. And that's the format. And so you only get this story taking place in her bedroom, and all of the things that take place outside of her bedroom, she's just recounting it for the camera for her project. But a lot of the story does take place in her bedroom, like her friends come or her enemies come or, you know, whatever. All of the action is centered in this one location and the location does not move. You are a single setup camera and it does not move. It is her computer. That's basically almost a character in this, especially because she's speaking directly to an audience. She's posting these videos. But that is such a crucial limitation of the entire story that it's just so crucial. It's just such a crux to the story and the way it was told that this novelization doesn't hit. So this novelization, which is written by Kim Turrisi, who's not the series writer, she was just tasked with writing this novelization. It's basically just a summary of the show. It does not add anything. It doesn't subtract anything. I'm gonna be honest, there's no reason for this to exist. Although, I'll say it does really feel like a novelization. I guess I don't read a lot of novelizations. When I was younger, I read the High School Musical novelizations, which aren't good. Like, they're not good writing. They're like literally just beat for beat what the movie is, but in like a really weird pace because it doesn't work. But for that, something like that is one, a cash grab. Two, promotes literacy in children. You know, if you have an 8-year-old that doesn't want to read, but you give them a book that's their favorite movie, suddenly they're gonna gobble that up. And maybe that inspires a love of reading in them, or gets them reading and works their reading muscles, or like whatever. The people watching Carmilla are not children in a literacy crisis. This does not promote literacy. I don't know if I want to call it a cash grab, because I don't even know like how successful this is. This is very niche. But it definitely doesn't add anything to the canon. It could have, because we're not bound by the limitations of a single camera in one location. You are able to go anywhere, and at points the book does, but it does not go into any detail. It is basically just a retelling of Laura's retellings from the web series. Like, there's a point where she goes to the library and there's a bunch of library shenanigans because the library is like haunted and shit moves around and there's like chaos and magic. But we can't see that in the web series because we are Laura's computer and she cannot take her computer to the library. And so she just comes back from the library and her hair's all messed up and she's telling us what happened in the library, which is a limitation of the web series format anyway. It's definitely not a perfect web series. It's really fun. I really like it. There's a lot of promise and potential in it, and it's a really, really fun time. But it's definitely not perfect, and it's because of moments like that where we don't see the action on the screen. They're just telling us what happened. And that gets to be a much bigger problem in the later seasons as they start fighting like bigger and bigger bad guys, and your scope stays exactly the same and you can't move, and so it doesn't work as well in the later seasons. The first season is very well written within the confines of what they were allowed to produce and the story they were allowed to tell. So the first season's really good, and so is the Christmas special, which I really like, which isn't actually a webcam, it's just like a movie, a little one-off movie. So anyway, the book had the opportunity to, like, when we're in the library, and we do go to the library, like, we see Laura and La Fontaine in the library and, like, doing research, but it does not show you anything that the web series doesn't tell you, which is kind of a disappointment. I understand, because this isn't the series creator writing this, she either wasn't allowed or wasn't willing to canonize anything that wasn't already confirmed in universe by the show. So she couldn't create any new ideas with the library. We couldn't explore the library and see all the cool supernatural things there because, I don't know, if she had the rights to do that or just didn't want to do that, or, you know, it'd be a different book. But I think if you were going to do a novel of Carmilla, if I was going to write a novel of Carmilla and not just Carmilla fanfiction, I did write Carmilla fanfiction. I read a lot of Carmilla fanfiction, which was all better than this because it's way more creative. Well, some of it was probably poorly written. This is a perfectly acceptably written book. The prose is nice. It's fine. But it's just beat for beat what happens in the story, which is kind of a disappointment. If you want a novel of Carmilla, if I wanted a novel of Carmilla, I would want to add those things that we could not see in the web series. You would get that description of the library. You would get the description of, like, the climax is a fight scene that does not take place in Laura's room. So even the climax is just, like, told to you in the web series version, which is, like, a con of the format. And, you know, not the best way to tell that story. But with a novel, you're not limited in perspective. You can go with Laura and you can really see this action in scene. And we do, but not really. So this book is very, very fast-paced, and that's because the web series is fast-paced. These episodes are, like, 4 to 7 minutes or 10 minutes, you know, they're like very short, and there's a lot going on, and the dialogue is really fast, and it really moves along because it's a short web series format, and that was how it had to be written. And so this novelization has the exact same pace where fucking everything just happens all the time. It's very fast. It's way too fast. I would not recommend this as your introduction to Carmilla at all. Do not read this before watching the web series. That's ridiculous, because this is not the best version of the story either. Honestly, even if you're a fan of this web series, don't read this. You're not gonna get anything new out of it, basically, unless you're like super ultra mega fan who just wants like every tiny little piece of canon. There is new dialogue in this. A lot of the dialogue is recycled, but a lot of it's recycled in like a weird way, where they couldn't commit to either just doing the dialogue one for one or like really fleshing out these conversations and making them sort of very different. It's like a weird middle ground where things get changed sometimes for no reason. The stuff that's added doesn't like drastically change the story, and the things that stay the same get like slightly altered for no reason. There's a line in the web series where La Fontaine, I think it's Perry actually, mentions maybe Carmilla has a hemoglobin deficiency, and in this version Perry says maybe Carmilla's hemoglobin deficient. So like it's just minorly tweaked sometimes, the lines are, for like no reason whatsoever. Like at that point you could just say the original line, why not? Maybe there is a reason why. Maybe they didn't have the rights to completely copy the script. But there are a lot of lines that are like dead on. But it's giving, yeah, you can copy my homework, but just change the answers a little bit so the teacher won't notice. The teacher noticed. So the novel like does that middle ground where it stays really, really faithful, but it does have to alter in some ways just because a book is not a web series. And like you need more context. And so they changed some dialogue, but not enough to like change your mind about anything or add any information, anything. This doesn't add anything to the canon. This does not add to the lore. I think it could have. I think that would have been better. That would have been a lot more interesting to see, you know, other parts of campus, other parts of Laura's lives. If you would really like slowed down the pace and made this a longer book and really like delved into the parts of Laura's life that we couldn't see through the web series, that just would have been really interesting and probably would have appealed to fans more. I don't know how people felt about this. This book came out in 2019, and again, the web series started in 2015, and then it kind of dwindled down the fandom, I guess, because the later seasons weren't quite as good. There's still a good fandom, and like people are really committed to the series because it's, even for me, like this holds a special place in my heart. This web series does, and I wanted to read this novelization. And I didn't hate reading it because it's Carmilla, and I like Carmilla. But I just don't see why anyone would ever read this book over just watching the web series. It would take longer to read this book than it would to watch the web series. And just the web series is better. It's better acted. I listened to this on audiobook. The narrator was Laurie Prince, who was fine. She does kind of, in the beginning especially, it feels like a novelization sort of for kids. She sort of like overacts it a bit, and there's sort of like a patronizing tone where like the tone you would use to tell a story to a child in a way, that kind of goes away as it goes on, or like maybe you just get used to it. But I think part of that is because this is so fast-paced. Like, this is not a good book as a standalone book if you only read this and you knew nothing about Carmilla or the universe and you had never seen the show and you just read this book. You would be like, this is all over the place. It is way too fast-paced. The characters don't pop as well. They feel very archetypal in this. I suppose they do in the show as well. Like, they are archetypes. Like, you've got, you know, the science nerd LaFontaine, and you've got the high-strung girl Perry, and, you know, the Zeta frat bro Kirsch. So you get archetypes, but I really like the actors in the web series, and they all do a great job, and they all like bring a lot to the characters, which really does a lot for the series because it is such short video formats, and you're so limited in so many ways that you're really relying on those actors embodying those characters and bringing a lot of heart and soul into it, and they do a great job, those performers. And Laurie Prince, she does some good voices in this. Like, there's some good distinction between characters, but she plays Laura Hollis like really naive and just, I don't know, it's just not Elise Bauman, you know. I wish Elise Bauman had been the audiobook narrator for this. No offense to Laurie Prince, she's fine, I'm sure. I don't know. I mean, it was fine, but you know, you want Laura, you know, Elise Bauman is Laura. You can't just have Laurie. Who's Laurie? I want Laura, which is Elise. So that could have made the audiobook better. I don't know why they didn't have Elise Bauman do this. Or, I mean, I'm sure there's like a reason, you know, that just could have been a nice touch. I definitely wouldn't have wanted to like read the text because that would just take too long, and it just feels soulless without the performers. At least in the audiobook you get like some performance, even if it's kind of over the top, but it feels over the top because the quality of the writing just isn't up to par because it's very poorly paced for a novel. This isn't how you would write the story of Carmilla if it had intended to be a novel. It was never intended to be a novel, and so that's why a direct novelization of a very short script just doesn't quite work exactly the way you'd want it. It doesn't turn into a decent standalone book for sure. I'm sure this is like a good piece for collectors. Like, the cover of the book does have the actors on it, so like if you wanted to display this on your shelf, you were a Carmilla super fan who just wanted everything about the show, wanted to support it. Does that make it a cash grab? I don't really know if it's a cash grab, but I'm sure someone liked this, but I just wouldn't. I would not recommend this. There was no point in this, And I don't think this just covers season 1. It doesn't cover any of the other seasons. And I don't think the other seasons ever got adapted into novels, and I see why, because it doesn't add anything. And it just doesn't live up to the performance. Just watch the show. I don't think they novelized the movie either. I don't remember the movie very well. That sort of came later. I did watch it at least once, maybe twice, but I don't remember it. But I rewatched like series 1 of the show like all the time. Like every year or so, I'll go through and watch a few episodes, and it's just great. And I like know it from memory. That's why I was able to pick out the lines that they just slightly changed. I'm like, she doesn't say it like that. Or like she just changes like little random things for no reason. Like there's a part where Laura's reading Harry Potter fan fiction in the web series, and in this Carmilla's like, oh, you're looking at Harry Potter cosplay? And it's like, why did you change that? Like, what was the point of changing things like that? Unless they weren't allowed to do the script 1-for-1. I don't know. I'm just speculating. Maybe she wanted it to be different and not literally just the scripts. Because at that point, maybe just publish the scripts. That would be cool, actually. I really like reading scripts. But yeah, this just didn't work for me. I like Carmilla. It made me want to watch the web series, which is good because I like Carmilla. And I did go watch like the first episode of the web series. And I'll probably watch some more. So I definitely recommend the web series because it's pretty good. Even though the later seasons don't hold up. I've never really rewatched the later seasons as much. Were there only 3 or were there 4? I think there were 3. I think I only saw the 3rd series one time. I couldn't even tell you what happens now. I think that's about all I want to say. So this doesn't really work as a book, and I didn't like enjoy it, but it's kind of short. It's, I don't know, it was in the Carmilla vibes. Don't get this. Just watch the web series. Don't read this. It could have been good if it had committed more to being different than the web series. If it had tried to do its own thing and really tried to luxuriate in this world and expand upon the lore. But it did not do that. And it always just feels like a missed opportunity. Because those scenes where we are, like, in the library, we're, like, fighting the big bad. I won't spoil who the big bad is. But when we're fighting them, like, when you're there, you're like, oh, we could really do something with this. Like, we could see this, and we've never seen this location before. And we could find out new things, and, like, let's, like, that's an opportunity to, like, expand the canon and give this book a reason for existing. And for fans to buy this book and learn more about the universe. But it just doesn't go there. I guess it didn't want to. But that was what I was hoping to get out of the book. So a bit disappointing. But I don't know. It made me appreciate Carmilla again. I gotta take the time out to appreciate one of the OGs. What a time. That was a time to be alive. I remember being so excited to watch new episodes of this. We had to wait like a week between episodes. And we'd get like 2 a week and be like, oh my god, like the theories, the discussion, the anticipation. That was the time of my life. And we'd rewatch the episodes over and over and over again. What an era. What a time to be alive. Good shit. Go watch Carmilla. Still holds up, honestly.